The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of Rick's, the upscale brunch spot where Dallas Evans worked 6 days a week to pay for night classes. A tense silence fell over the restaurant's sunny terrace as all eyes turned toward the commotion, including those of Ryan Young, whose multi-million-dollar real estate development deal was minutes away from being finalized over poached eggs and mimosas. "I'm so sorry," Dallas stammered, already dropping to her knees to gather the glass shards. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as she fumbled with her serving tray, nearly toppling the remaining champagne flutes. This wasn't how she'd planned to start her double shift. 3 years of serving brunch to Chicago's elite without incident. And now this in front of the restaurant's most important table. Ryan Young observed the server with curiosity rather than the annoyance his business partners clearly expected. While Martin Townsend from Chicago Capital Partners was already summoning the manager with an impatient wave, Ryan found himself reaching down to help. "Here, let me," he said, crouching beside her. Their fingers brushed as they both reached for the same piece of glass. Dallas looked up, momentarily startled by his proximity. She'd seen him before, of course. Ryan Young was a regular at Rick's, always surrounded by suits and spreadsheets, always deep in conversation about property values and investment returns. She'd never expected him to be the type to get on his knees to help a server clean up a mess. "You really don't have to," she protested, noticing his perfectly tailored navy suit now dusted with flecks of pancake batter that had splashed during the commotion. "It's no problem," he said with an easy smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. At 35, Ryan Young had the confident bearing of someone who'd built his success from the ground up. "I've caused plenty of messes in my day." The restaurant manager hurried over, profusely apologizing to the table of investors. "Mr. Young, please, this is entirely unacceptable. Your meal today will be complimentary, of course." Ryan stood, dusting off his suit pants. "Gerald, it was an accident, no harm done." He glanced down at Dallas, who was still gathering the last fragments. "Though maybe bring us a fresh round of drinks." Dallas nodded gratefully, relieved she wasn't being reprimanded in front of the entire restaurant. As she hurried back to the bar, she could feel Ryan's eyes following her. It was unnerving but not entirely unwelcome. At the table, Ryan's business partner leaned in. "Since when do you help the help, Ryan? We're 10 minutes away from closing on the Riverside project." Ryan shrugged, returning his attention to the documents spread across the table. "Just being decent, Martin. Now, about the environmental impact report." The brunch continued with Dallas carefully navigating around their table, ensuring their coffee cups remained filled and their needs anticipated. Each time she approached, she noticed Ryan looking up, his expression thoughtful. Once, he even thanked her by name, having read her name tag a small courtesy most patrons never bothered with. As the investors began gathering their papers at the end of the meal, Ryan lingered, signing the check despite the manager's insistence that it wasn't necessary. Dallas approached to clear the last of the plates. "I hope this incident doesn't reflect poorly on your review," Ryan said quietly. "It truly was just an accident." Dallas smiled, surprised by his concern. "Thank you, but I'm more worried about the dry cleaning bill for your suit." Ryan laughed, a genuine sound that drew the attention of his departing colleagues. "Fair enough. But it's nothing compared to what we just closed on." He slid his business card across the table. "If Gerald gives you any trouble, let me know. My company owns the building." Dallas picked up the card, her fingertips grazing the embossed lettering of Young Development Group. "I didn't realize." "Most people don't," Ryan replied, gathering his portfolio. "I prefer it that way." He hesitated, then added, "I'm in here most Thursday mornings. The coffee's better than at my office." With that, he was gone, leaving Dallas holding his card and wondering if that had been an invitation or simply a statement of fact. The following Thursday, Dallas found herself assigned to Ryan's usual section, though this time he was alone, without his usual entourage of investors and partners. He sat by the window, reviewing documents with a focus that created an invisible barrier around him despite the busy restaurant. "Just coffee today?" Dallas asked, approaching his table with professional composure. Ryan looked up, recognition and something warmer flickering in his eyes. "Dallas, right? No champagne casualties this week," she laughed despite herself. "Not yet, but the day is young." "So is the week," he countered, closing his folder. "I'll have the avocado toast and coffee, please." As Dallas turned to place his order, Ryan added, "And maybe your recommendation for something else." "I've been ordering the same thing for 2 years." Dallas paused, considering. "The lemon ricotta pancakes are worth the calories." "Sold. I'll have both." Over the following weeks, Thursdays developed a pattern. Ryan would arrive at 9:30 alone with his work. Dallas would serve him coffee and he'd ask for her recommendation, always taking it, no matter how adventurous. Their interactions were brief, but increasingly familiar, punctuated by small observations about each other's lives. She learned he'd started his company with a small inheritance and a big vision for affordable housing with sustainable materials. He discovered she was studying architecture at night, working double shifts to pay for classes without drowning in student loans. "Architecture?" Ryan had said, visibly impressed. "That explains why you asked about the windows in the Riverside project last week." Dallas had blushed, not realizing he'd noticed her interest when she'd overheard his conversation with a contractor. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop." "You weren't. You were engaging," Ryan had corrected. "There's a difference." 4 Thursdays into their new routine, Ryan arrived looking unusually tired, the weight of some invisible burden evident in the set of his shoulders. "The usual?" Dallas asked, already pouring his coffee. Ryan nodded, then stopped himself. "Actually, no, surprise me today." "I need something different." Dallas returned with Belgian waffles topped with fresh berries and a side of bacon. "Comfort food," she explained. "You look like you could use some." Ryan's expression softened. "That obvious, huh? Only to someone who's been serving you breakfast for a month." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Do you get a break?" Dallas glanced at her watch. "In about 20 minutes. "I'll wait." When Dallas returned, having removed her apron and quickly freshened up in the employee restroom, Ryan had ordered a second coffee for her. She slid into the seat, aware of the curious glances from her coworkers. "So," Ryan began, "tell me more about your architectural ambitions." For the next 15 minutes, Dallas found herself explaining her dream of designing spaces that served communities, rather than just aesthetics, affordable housing that didn't sacrifice beauty, public buildings that invited rather than intimidated. Ryan listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that revealed his own passion for the subject. "Your 15 minutes are up," he noted as her manager began glancing their way. "But I'd like to continue this conversation, maybe somewhere that doesn't time your breaks." Dallas hesitated, aware of the power imbalance between them. He, a wealthy developer who owned this very building; she, a server working her way through school. "I don't know if that's a good idea." Ryan nodded, accepting her boundary without pushing. "Fair enough. Just know the invitation stands." The following Thursday, Ryan didn't come for breakfast. Dallas told herself she wasn't disappointed, that it was ridiculous to have expected anything different. He was a millionaire with a busy life. Their interactions had been pleasant but meaningless. When her shift ended, Dallas was surprised to find an envelope with her name on it at the hostess stand. Inside was a ticket to an architectural exhibition at the Chicago Design Museum, along with a note in a strong, decisive hand. "Dallas thought you might find this interesting. No pressure to attend, but if you do, I'll be there Saturday at 2 p.m. Either way, keep the ticket." Dallas stared at the ticket, torn between excitement and caution. The exhibition was one she'd been eager to see, featuring innovative approaches to urban housing but couldn't justify the expense. It was thoughtful of Ryan to remember their conversation, yet she wondered about his motives. After debating with herself for 2 days, Dallas decided to go. She arrived at the museum a few minutes past 2, scanning the crowded lobby for Ryan's familiar figure. She almost didn't recognize him in jeans and a casual button-down rather than his usual suit. "You came," he said, approaching with a smile that seemed both pleased and relieved. "The exhibition is relevant to my studies," Dallas explained, maintaining a safe emotional distance. "Thank you for the ticket." Ryan nodded, accepting her practical framing without comment. "Shall we?" The afternoon unfolded in a surprisingly comfortable rhythm. Ryan knew enough about architecture to ask intelligent questions but deferred to Dallas's academic knowledge when appropriate. They debated the merits of various designs, finding common ground in their appreciation for functionality that didn't sacrifice beauty. "This is exactly what I've been trying to convince my investors to support," Ryan said, gesturing toward a model of a mixed-use development. "Spaces that serve the community while still being economically viable." "And what do they say?" Dallas asked, genuinely curious. Ryan's expression turned rueful. "They say I'm an idealist who got lucky with his first few projects and that I should stick to what's proven profitable." "Are they right about the lucky part?" "Partly," he admitted. "I had some advantages, enough money to get started, connections through family friends, but luck only gets you so far." They continued through the exhibition, conversation flowing easily from architecture to their backgrounds. Dallas learned that Ryan had grown up comfortable but not wealthy, the son of a high school principal and a nurse. His fortune was self-made through smart investments and an almost prescient sense of urban development trends. Ryan discovered that Dallas had moved to Chicago from a small town in Michigan, determined to escape the limited horizons that had constrained her parents. She'd worked continuously since she was 16, saving and planning for a future others told her was unrealistic. "So what's next?" Ryan asked as they exited the museum, neither quite ready to end the afternoon. "Coffee," Dallas suggested, pointing to a small cafe across the street. "I promise not to spill it on you this time." Over coffee, their conversation deepened. Dallas found herself sharing frustrations about her program, the challenges of balancing work and study, the doubts that sometimes kept her awake at night. Ryan spoke of the isolation that came with success, how relationships became transactional, how people approached him with agendas rather than genuine interest. "Is that what this is?" Dallas finally asked, the question she'd been avoiding. "Some kind of agenda I'm not seeing?" Ryan considered her question with the seriousness it deserved. "If I have an agenda, it's simply getting to know someone who interests me, someone who sees the world a bit like I do but from a different vantage point." He paused. "But I understand your caution." "In your position, I'd probably feel the same." Dallas appreciated his honesty. "It's just you're you, and I'm the person who serves your coffee." "That's what you do, not who you are," Ryan countered. "And what I do isn't who I am either." The afternoon stretched into early evening, and when they finally parted ways, it was with a tentative plan to meet again, this time for dinner the following weekend. Their dinner stretched into a stroll along the Chicago Riverwalk, where Ryan pointed out buildings he admired and developments he'd been involved with. Dallas was surprised by his lack of pretension, the way he spoke about his work with passion rather than ego. "That one," he said, pointing to a renovated warehouse that now housed artist studios and affordable apartments, "was my first major project. The investors thought I was crazy, but it's been fully occupied since it opened." "It's beautiful," Dallas observed, admiring the way the original industrial character had been preserved while making the space welcoming. "You can tell it was designed with people in mind, not just profit." Ryan glanced at her, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "That's exactly what I was going for." He hesitated, then added, "I have a new project starting next month. If you're interested, I could show you the plans." Dallas felt a flutter of excitement at the professional opportunity, followed immediately by uncertainty about their blurring boundaries. "I'd like that, but you're not sure if I'm offering because I enjoy your company or because I'm interested in your professional opinion," Ryan finished for her, something like that. Ryan stopped walking, turning to face her directly. The answer is both. I enjoy your company tremendously, and I value your perspective. Those things aren't mutually exclusive, Dallas. There was something disarming about his directness, the way he addressed her concerns without dismissing them. Okay then, she said. I'd love to see the plans. What began as a professional courtesy evolved into regular conversations about Ryan's projects. Dallas found herself looking forward to their discussions, the way Ryan took her suggestions seriously, sometimes implementing her ideas into revised plans. He, in turn, seemed to value having someone who understood his vision without the financial motivations that drove his investors. They were careful to keep their developing relationship separate from Rick's. Dallas continued serving Ryan's Thursday brunches with professional courtesy, though their shared glances now held the warmth of shared secrets. If her coworkers suspected anything, they were discreet enough not to mention it. 2 months after the museum exhibition, Ryan invited Dallas to the groundbreaking ceremony for his newest project, a mixed-use development in a previously neglected neighborhood. The design incorporated several elements they'd discussed, including community gardens and flexible spaces that could adapt to residents' changing needs. I'd like you to come as my guest, not just an observer, Ryan said when he extended the invitation. Several of the architects I work with will be there. It might be a good networking opportunity. Dallas understood what he was offering, a chance to step into the professional world she aspired to join, not just as a server with ambitions, but as someone with valuable ideas and connections. The ceremony itself was brief but significant, with local officials and community leaders celebrating the project's potential impact. Dallas watched with pride as Ryan spoke passionately about creating spaces that served people rather than merely housing them, recognizing her own influence in his words. Afterward, Ryan introduced her to his colleagues not as a student or a server, but as a collaborator whose insights had shaped aspects of the design. Dallas found herself engaged in conversations about sustainability and community integration with established architects who treated her questions and observations with respect. "You're a natural," Ryan said later as they shared a quiet dinner to celebrate the successful event. Everyone was impressed. Dallas felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the wine they were sharing. "Thank you for including me. It meant a lot." "I should be thanking you," Ryan replied, his expression serious. "Your perspective changed this project for the better. You reminded me why I got into this business in the first place." Their eyes met across the table, and Dallas felt the shift between them, the professional admiration and cautious friendship deepening into something neither had acknowledged until now. "Ryan," she began, unsure how to navigate this new territory. "I need to be clear about something." He waited, giving her the space to find her words. "I value what's developing between us," Dallas continued carefully. "But I need you to understand that my career, my education, they're non-negotiable. I won't be anyone's side project or charity case." Ryan reached across the table, his fingers lightly touching hers. "I would never ask you to compromise who you are or what you're working toward." "It's precisely those things that..." He hesitated. "That made me fall for you in the first place." The admission hung between them, honest and vulnerable in a way Dallas hadn't expected from someone who negotiated million-dollar deals for a living. "I'm falling for you too," she admitted, turning her hand to properly hold his. "And it terrifies me." Ryan's smile was tender. "Good things often do." As summer turned to fall, their relationship deepened. Dallas continued working at Rick's and attending classes, refusing Ryan's offers to ease her financial burden. "I need to finish this on my own terms," she insisted, and he respected her determination even while finding small ways to support her architecture books that happened to address topics she was studying, introductions to professionals who could offer guidance. For his part, Ryan found in Dallas something his success had made increasingly rare: genuine connection with someone who saw him clearly, who challenged his thinking and appreciated his values rather than his bank account. Their worlds began to merge gradually. Ryan attended a student exhibition where Dallas's design was featured, beaming with unabashed pride as her professors praised her work. Dallas accompanied Ryan to several business dinners, holding her own in conversations about urban development and design ethics. The first significant test of their relationship came when Ryan invited Dallas to accompany him to New York for a weekend conference on sustainable urban planning. "It would mean sharing a hotel suite," he acknowledged, watching her reaction carefully, "but there are 2 bedrooms. No assumptions or expectations." Dallas appreciated his sensitivity to the implications. They had been taking their physical relationship slowly, both aware of the power dynamics they were carefully navigating. "I'd love to go," she said, "and I think we're past the point of separate bedrooms, don't you?" Ryan's smile was both delighted and relieved. "I was hoping you'd say that." The New York trip marked a turning point. Away from Chicago and the roles they played their millionaire developer, hardworking student, they discovered a new freedom in their relationship. They explored the city between Ryan's conference sessions, Dallas marveling at architectural details Ryan might have overlooked, Ryan pointing out development trends that informed Dallas's understanding of urban planning. In their hotel suite overlooking Central Park, their relationship deepened physically with the same consideration and communication that had characterized their emotional connection. Ryan was attentive and patient, Dallas confident and enthusiastic. Together, they discovered a chemistry that matched their intellectual connection. "I love you," Ryan said on their final morning in New York, the words emerging naturally as they watched the sunrise paint the city skyline. "I wasn't looking for this when you spilled champagne on my shoes, but I can't imagine my life without you now." Dallas turned in his arms, meeting his gaze with steady certainty. "I love you too, not your money, not your connections, you." Back in Chicago, they faced the practical challenges of integrating their lives. Dallas was adamant about maintaining her independence, completing her degree without financial assistance from Ryan. He supported her decision while occasionally testing its boundaries. "It's not about paying your way," he argued when she refused his offer to cover an expensive software program her studies required. "It's about investing in your future, our future." "Our future doesn't depend on you funding my present," Dallas countered. "I need to do this myself." They learned to compromise. Dallas accepted small gifts that enhanced her education without undermining her self-sufficiency. Ryan learned to offer support in ways that respected her autonomy. They built a relationship grounded in mutual respect rather than traditional expectations. As Dallas approached her final semester, Ryan proposed a collaboration that challenged both their boundaries. His company was designing a community center in the neighborhood where Dallas had first found an apartment when she moved to Chicago. "I'd like you to be part of the design team," he said, showing her the preliminary plans. "Not as my girlfriend, but as a paid consultant with your own specific portfolio, the community outreach component." Dallas studied his expression, looking for signs of charity or condescension. Finding none, she asked, "Why me? There are professionals with years of experience you could hire. None with your particular insight into what makes a space truly work for the people who need it most," Ryan answered honestly. "This isn't about us. It's about creating something better because you're involved in the process." After careful consideration, Dallas accepted the position, establishing clear boundaries with Ryan's team to ensure her contributions were evaluated on merit rather than her relationship with the company's founder. The arrangement proved successful beyond either's expectations, with Dallas's community engagement strategies earning praise from local leaders and residents alike. 6 months later, as the community center project neared completion and Dallas prepared for graduation, Ryan suggested they visit the construction site together on a quiet Sunday morning. "I want to show you something," he said. leading her through the nearly finished building to a small courtyard garden that had been her specific contribution to the design, a flexible space where residents could gather, grow food, or simply find respite from urban pressures. In the center of the garden stood a small plaque mounted on a stone pillar. Dallas approached it curiously, then gasped as she read the inscription: "The Evans Garden where community takes root and possibilities grow." "You named it after me," she said softly, turning to find Ryan watching her with tender anticipation. "It seemed fitting," he replied, moving closer. "Your vision shaped this space, just like you've shaped my understanding of what matters most." He took her hands in his. "Dallas, when we met, I was successful but incomplete. You reminded me why I started building in the first place, to create spaces that matter, that serve real human needs." Dallas felt tears welling in her eyes as Ryan continued, "I don't want to change you or your path. I want to walk it with you, supporting each other's dreams and building something meaningful together." He released one of her hands to reach into his pocket, withdrawing a small velvet box. "This garden is just the beginning of what we could create together," he said, opening the box to reveal an elegant engagement ring. "Will you marry me?" Dallas looked from the ring to Ryan's hopeful face, then to the garden around them, a physical manifestation of their complementary visions. "Yes," she whispered, then more confidently, "yes, I will." As Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, Dallas added with a smile, "But I'm keeping my job at Rixi's until graduation. No arguments," Ryan laughed, pulling her close. "I wouldn't dream of it. After all, if you hadn't been serving brunch that morning, we might never have met. And if you hadn't been the kind of millionaire who helps clean up broken glass," Dallas added, "I might never have noticed you were different from all the others." 1 year later, Dallas and Ryan stood in the completed community center, hosting a joint celebration, the official opening of the building and their wedding reception. Dallas, now a graduated architect with a position at her respected firm, not Ryan's, had designed their wedding to reflect their journey. Elegant but unpretentious, with details that honored both their backgrounds. The guests represented the bridges they'd built between their worlds. Dallas's co-workers from Rixi's mingled with Ryan's business partners. Her professors chatted with his investors. Community members whose input had shaped the center celebrated alongside Chicago's business elite. During the reception, Martin Townsend, the same partner who had been impatient when Ryan helped Dallas clean up broken glass, approached the couple with a champagne toast. "When Ryan started talking about community-centered design 2 years ago, I thought he'd lost his business sense," Martin admitted. "Now I see he was gaining something much more valuable." He raised his glass. To Dallas and Ryan, proof that sometimes the best investments are in people, not properties. As the evening continued, Dallas and Ryan slipped away briefly to the garden that bore her name, now flourishing with early summer blooms and community plantings. "Did you ever imagine this?" Dallas asked, gesturing to the thriving space around them and the celebration inside. "When I spilled champagne on your shoes," Ryan shook his head, drawing her close. "I was just trying to close a deal that morning. Instead, I found a partner who changed everything." He kissed her gently. "Best brunch interruption of my life." Dallas smiled against his lips. "And the best tip I ever received." As they returned to their guests, hand in hand, they carried with them the knowledge that their story, unexpected and challenging as it had built something neither could have created alone. A partnership of equals founded on respect, shared purpose, and love that transcended their different starting points. In the years that followed, they would design buildings together, start a foundation focused on community development, and eventually welcome 2 children who grew up understanding that true wealth came not from bank accounts, but from creating spaces, both physical and emotional, where people could thrive. And every Thursday morning, no matter how busy their schedules became, they made time for brunch at Rixi's Ryan at his usual table. Dallas joining him after years of serving rather than being served, remembering how a shattered champagne flute had sparked a connection that built a life neither had imagined possible.